April 4th, 1975. A 5-minute phone call sets off a business war that will reshape Silicon Valley. Bill Gates, a 19-year-old Harvard dropout, receives a tip. A company called MITS just released the Altair 8008, the first commercially successful personal computer kit. The machine has no software, no real operating system, and no programming language, just blinking lights and bare metal. MITS sells the kit for $397 and ships over 5,000 units in the first few months. It's the signal the industry is about to explode. Gates and his childhood friend Paul Allen see the opportunity immediately. They don't have the product yet, but they call MITS CEO Ed Roberts and claim they've written a basic interpreter for the Altair. It's a bluff. They code day and night to actually build it before flying to Albuquerque for the demo. The software runs perfectly. Gates and Allen land their first major deal. Microsoft is born, but across town in Cupertino, California, another spark ignites. In 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak build the Apple I in Jobs' parents' garage. Unlike the Altair, the Apple I includes a keyboard and video display output. No more blinking lights, just text on a screen. Apple sells 200 units through local computer clubs and hobbyist stores. That's enough to attract an angel investor. Mike Markula, a former Intel executive, injects $250,000 and turns Apple into a real company. Apple and Microsoft now race in parallel, both targeting the unproven market of home computing. But the rivalry doesn't ignite until IBM enters the ring. In 1980, IBM's personal computer division wants to launch a PC in under a year. They need an operating system. They approach Microsoft, assuming Gates can provide it. But Microsoft doesn't actually have one. So Gates buys the rights to an OS called Kudos from Seattle Computer Products for $50,000, rebrands it as MS-DOS, and licenses it to IBM. Here's the twist. Microsoft licenses MS. That means Microsoft can sell the OS to other manufacturers. IBM doesn't see the threat yet, but Gates does. Every IBM clone that hits the market becomes another Microsoft customer. By 1983, over 30 million MS-DOS licenses have been sold. Apple, meanwhile, focuses on user experience. In 1984, the company launches the Macintosh. It introduces a graphical user interface, a mouse, and design-first thinking. The famous 1984 Super Bowl ad declares war on the status quo, implicitly targeting IBM, but really warning everyone else. Jobs calls Microsoft in to write software for the Mac. Gates agrees. But behind the scenes, Microsoft starts building its own GUI-based OS, Windows. By 1985, the tension explodes. Jobs discovers Windows. He's furious. In an internal Apple meeting, he rants. "We trusted them. They ripped us off." Microsoft argues the graphical interface isn't Apple's invention. It traces back to Xerox PARC. And legally, Gates covers himself. The contract with Apple never forbids Microsoft from making a competing interface. So, Windows launches. It's clunky compared to the Mac, but it runs on cheap hardware. That accessibility proves lethal. In just 3 years, Windows becomes the dominant OS on PCs worldwide. By 1990, Microsoft controls over 90% of the PC operating system market. Apple stumbles. Between 1985 and 1996, the company burns through for CEOs and loses half its market value. Meanwhile, Gates becomes the richest man in America. But the rivalry turns personal again in 1997. Apple, now near bankruptcy, brings Jobs back as interim CEO. He shocks the world by announcing a $150 million investment from Microsoft. At Macworld, Jobs appears on stage as a giant video screen shows Bill Gates live via satellite. The crowd boos. Jobs calms them down. "We have to let go of this notion that for Apple to win, Microsoft has to lose," he says. But the détente is temporary. By 2001, Microsoft dominates software, and Apple shifts to hardware innovation. The iPod launches and sells over 100 million units within 6 years. Then, in 2007, Apple unveils the iPhone. It redefines computing again, not with code, but with design. Microsoft misses the mobile wave completely. Windows Mobile holds just 12% of market share in 2008. By 2015, it's under 3%. The company concedes. Gates later admits losing mobile to Apple was his greatest mistake. Meanwhile, Apple becomes the world's most valuable company. The rivalry started with a single phone call, a bluff about software. It evolves into a philosophical divide. Open versus closed systems, function versus form, mass adoption versus elegant design. Gates builds an empire on licensing. Jobs crafts a legacy on control and simplicity. Both men change the world, but they take opposite roads to get there. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.